right, and welcome back to another episode of Butler's Babble, and welcome to another season of Butler's Babble. Season one went really well, and we wrapped that up last just before Christmas. There, we took a little bit of a break. Now we're starting season two. A couple little things to let you know: we're still here on the YouTube channel, and make sure you tell your friends and family members to come and check it out and subscribe and check out some of not just this episode, but some of the other episodes that we had all in season one. And we've got a whole crew of people coming up for season two that you're going to want to not miss. So make sure you all subscribe and like the channel and do what you have to do so you don't miss an episode. But another announcement that we have is we are now in audio version. So we have now upgraded ourselves to the point where you can now catch Butler's Babble episodes live. Well, not live, but you can listen to them on your favorite podcasting station in your car, or whether you're just walking down the street with your headphones on. You can get us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and I believe iHeartRadio right now. So you can't miss an episode. Even if you can't sit there and watch it, you can go and listen to it. So make sure you subscribe to all those and check us out. But with that all said and done, we're ready to start season two. We have an amazing guest for you today. She's going to come on and tell you about some stuff that she went through growing up. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to bring her in. Let's bring Krista in. Krista Buckingham, how are you?
I'm good, John. So good to see you. It's been a long time coming. We're
It
supposed
has
to do this
been.
in the fall, but I got sick, so it's unfortunate, but it's better time now. So
Exactly. And we're glad you're feeling better and doing better. And now look at you, look amazing, of course. And so why don't you give a little background? I mean, I've known you for quite a while, but let's give them a little background about Krista, what you were like growing up, your family life, things like that.
okay, I come from a hardworking civil servant family, 4 children, growing up in Brampton. My dad's OPP, so it was a rules-based family, right?
Mhm.
Mom stayed home, and then she was the attendant secretary at our high school, Central Peel.
Yep.
So yeah, she started out as a lunch lady, and everyone hated her because she monitored everyone's lunch behavior. And then she went to attendance, where she monitored everyone's attendance at school. So I had a cop at home and the attendance secretary at high school watching my every move. So I was a very good kid. Okay. I got great grades, excelled a lot, always teacher's pet. I always wanted to be a doctor. So I strove and always got really, really good grades. So, yeah, I always had physical health issues, never slept well, never ate well. I was always my mother called me a willful child, and I will accept that finally. Um, yes, very willful, very determined. I like things the way I like things. I'm very specific because nothing on me works the way it does for a normal person. So,
Mhm.
I can't drink alcohol. I drink coffee. I can't like everything reacts on me. So I've never slept well. My mother's always dragging my ass out of bed by 12, and she's like, "Get up, you're missing the day." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what can you do when you can't sleep?" So
Yeah.
yeah, I've had sleeping disorders and eating problems, weight issues. I've always had like subcutaneous fat because of my condition. It just makes your joints sore. Everything is a slog. Everything's an effort. So yes, I'm willful because everything's been way harder for me. So I come by it naturally, right?
Mhm.
When I was a teenager, it started to become health issues. Like I couldn't get up for school, started missing school, started having emotional problems, controlling my emotions because of the hormones that we're going through. Where it leads to bipolar depression, right? Because your hormones are at the swings of everything. You're in pain all the time. You're not sleeping, and you're not eating. You're not resting. You're not healing. So everything becomes like you're full of anxiety constantly, and you're living in this pain and this anxious state, and it's a struggle. So I realized that my dream of never was never going to come true of me becoming a doctor, despite everything, because I didn't have 12 years of medical school to pay for it, to put the
Mhm.
energy in, to then do 12 hours of residency, and then have a family and all that. I didn't have the energy resources for all of that. So I
Mhm.
decided the best use of my life would be to have children, to get married, to have children. And I got married very young. And I had my first child. I was married at 21, and I had my first child just after my 22nd birthday. And it was very difficult. It was a C-section. Um, The second one was near fatal. We had another child by another C-section, and there was a complication from that because of my health condition, and the both of us almost died on that table. So, and the third one came along, and it was a challenge on my heart because of I was 27, and normally a woman at 27 would have no problem having children, but it was so hard on my body that I just couldn't do it anymore. And I
Mhm.
started at 3 and then raised those 3, loved every minute of it. When I decided to get divorced, I went back to school and went to college, took dietary technician, and then spent 2 years doing that. And then got very sick when I took a vaccine for a job at a hospital, and ended up making me bedridden. So I
Mhm.
spent pretty much the next 14 years in bed and in pain, and no doctor could help. So I eventually in 2020 started finding answers for myself. I started looking, finding solutions, asking questions, starting medications that were
Mhm.
unusual, and finding solutions, treatment, health coming from myself. And eventually I got better, got off pain meds, could stand. It took me forever to figure out how to stand again because once you lay down for 14 years, your spine doesn't hold, your head doesn't hold a load. And
Mhm.
so standing up brings a whole bunch of neurologic symptoms, and it's quite a challenge to learn how to stand again. But I'm running upstairs. I go down to my beach every day and walk, and I'm getting better. And eventually, if I can get strong enough, I'll maybe run for office. If people elect me, I'll go to Ottawa and try and fix some of this shit because I don't want to just sit here and enjoy my life here now that I've created myself back from scratch here and do nothing with it. I want to actually make something for all of us. I don't like where our country's going. So
Mhm.
God willing, I'll have the strength in a year or so to actually run for office, and then, like, I'll take on these shit disturbers who's actually fucking up what's the greatest place on the planet. I can't stand this. It's driving me nuts, so I get up with a mission. I'm gonna fulfill it.
Good. And going back then to you as a child. So this was something that actually you were born with, but you exactly didn't really get a lot of the symptoms until you were getting into high school and stuff. But going back to when you were in like elementary school and that, how did it affect you? Like, were you still a pretty rambunctious girl? Were you one that when you went to school, you still had a lot of extracurricular activities? Did you and your friends go out and do like the normal things that friends would do? Like, what kind of a child were you when you were just not worrying about the illness, but actually just being a kid again?
Well, probably for the first 10 years, I was, I could say athletic. I participated in softball, skating, swimming, gymnastics. I was competitive.
Mhm.
So I love being physical in the body, but now I know that's part of my health. I have to do that. I have to be physical and
Mhm.
athletic to actually maintain my health. Um, it was when you get to be teenager that your life changes. You start thinking about boys and the hormones hit, and you become a woman, and
Mhm.
things change. The body changes, and it radically affects how everything works. So it's
No,
noticeable.
definitely. And
Between
then
13 and 15 is a big change. Yeah.
oh, for sure. And then also growing up in like you said, you grew up in Brampton, which is where I'm from. People don't know that Brampton's just outside of Toronto, there in Canada here, and we go through the seasons. Of course, we go from extremely hot and humid weather in the summer, where it's like could be minus, or I mean, plus 20, 25 degrees Celsius, but with the humidity feel like 40 or something. But
Yeah.
then, of course, in the winter, it's like with the wind chill and that we can get up to minus 30, minus 40 Celsius. And so does something like that affect, like the
Oh,
temperature itself affect what you were going through? Because a lot of people aren't probably don't know what it is. We'll get to what the illness is in a second, but I mean, I'm sure during going to high school, I mean, you got to deal with this. Plus, you're trying to get good grades. You're hanging out with your friends. You're Were you on any of the sports teams or anything? I know you were in band and that you used to play an instrument and stuff like that.
yeah, I played the oboe. I was involved in like the yearbook committee, and I viewed the debating club, which ironically now is very fortuitous. I hung out with all the smart guys, and I loved just being with people of intelligence, with brains, with drive. And yes, very physical until I couldn't, until I got a job and I had to give up my sports. I actually wrecked my knee. I
Okay.
turned it inside out, and tore all the ligaments, and it took me 6 months to learn how to walk again. So,
Mm.
yeah, it wasn't, a lot of limitations. Physicality for people with EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is necessary. We're hypermobile, which means our joints move outside of the range of a normal human movement. So it gives and bends, and it even dislocates when you put it under too much stress, and we injure very quickly. But staying flexible and keeping free movement is very necessary for our health.
And this mostly, like you said, you were born with it. It started early in age, of course, but it wasn't until like you're 14, 15 years old. Now, did you have siblings too?
Yeah, my brother was the first one in our family to show signs.
Okay.
He was playing basketball
And
at
he's older or
10.
younger than you?
He's 7 years older than me. So
Okay.
he was about 15 or 16. He's playing basketball at school, fell, dislocated shoulder really bad, needed surgery. And he still got like a nasty scar.
Mhm.
So, and he started dislocating both shoulders. He started having other health issues. So, he got taken to an orthopedic surgeon. And when I was 9, a few of us, my sister included, were taken to the orthopedic surgeon for a diagnosis, and I was included in that. So
Okay.
I knew by the age of 9 that I was down for this ride. It was gonna
Okay.
be weird, and the first time my shoulder dislocated,
Mm.
knew it was coming, watched my brother do it. So when it happened to me, I was like, "Oh, great. This is thank you,
And so
confirmation."
and those that don't know, it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or EDS. And why don't you give them a little background of what that is?
Okay, so it's an inheritable connective tissue disorder. It's a collagen deficiency. So when your body makes collagen, and it makes it through almost everything in your joints, your bones, your skin. I don't think it's in your hair. Maybe it is in your hair. I don't know. It's keratin that's in your hair. But um, so your blood vessels, they're made of collagen. And if it's not lined up in the proper formation, then it's not strong and stable. It's like your frame of your house. If your frame has got shitty wood instead of oak, you've got
Mhm.
pine, then your house doesn't work well, it's not built well, and it's not gonna serve you well, right?
Mhm.
So, my house is built out of pine instead of oak, and everything I do is an effort because of it, right? I'm
Mhm.
struggling against a weak frame to move me constantly, and it's tiring. I
Yeah.
Sometimes just standing up, even holding my head up because of the blood pressure changes. Like your blood pressure changes when you stand up, but a normal person's autonomic system compensates so they don't notice it. But talking to other family members, other people who experience this, you stand up and you go, "Whoa, what the hell?" You black out. I've passed out standing up. So is my son. Most of my family members know what the hell I'm talking about. You
Mhm.
stand up and you're like, "Oh my goodness." These are the autonomic functions that most people don't notice, but they seem to be quite lacking when your house isn't built stably. So,
Definitely. So it affects your overall flexibility of your joints, your bone structure, the skin itself too, because
yeah,
I was reading
tears,
how
rips.
fragile skin and it's stretchy skin and things like that.
That's also why I look young, because my skin is so thin, and I'm very grateful. But when I had my first son, some lady at the store, she said, "This is you're babysitting," and I'm like, "No, it's my son." And she says, "Well, you look like you're 15 or 16." Well, I am 23, but
Yeah,
she said, "When you're 50, that'll come in handy." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you," because
definitely.
I'm I'm grateful that my skin is thin because I don't have pimples and wrinkles and stuff, but I
Mhm.
have a lot of other issues that go with it too.
Sure, because I bet you cut easily and things like that.
It's impossible to keep it intact. It wants to just break down all the time.
Yeah, and another version of EDS is the vascular EDS. And do you have vascular EDS or just standard?
Most fatal kind, they normally don't make it past 40. So
Okay.
that's how fatal that condition is. It's one of the most fatal. I think they haven't fully diagnosed my family yet because we've been through genetics, but it was inconclusive. So
Okay.
I think it's the hypermobile type, which is the most common. They haven't actually identified the gene for that one yet. So
Okay.
it's suspicious because all the others seem to have a gene, and why this one is so big, but yet they can't identify the gene. It should be the fastest one to identify, and they're
Mhm.
struggling. So The Ehlers-Danlos support group just lost their gene bank research stuff that I was part of because of funding is dried up.
Oh,
So
okay.
who
That's
knows?
unfortunate. Hopefully something can be done about that. I was reading here, I'm on the Mayo Clinic's website here, and I'm reading about all this stuff. And then I know with the vascular, it says that they often share distinctive facial features such as a thin nose, thin upper lip, small earlobes, prominent eyes. So there are ways that you can um, almost tell them apart from other ones that have not the vascular, or they have thin translucent skin that bruises very easy, which you have, of course,
Yeah. So
um, and
other
fair skin too. And you're very fair skinned yourself.
yeah, they should. I have big eyes and thin lips, and it's just not as extreme as in the vascular. They
Mhm.
have the most pronounced. So
No, exactly. And they say with the vascular one, you can actually see the blood vessels like in the actual visible through the skin in that.
yeah,
So
you can see all my
yeah, a
all my
little bit.
veins through my skin too. So
So going back then to well, and also another thing I guess people don't realize is now this is not a contagious thing. This is just something that's done genetically.
it's passed through a dominant gene. So my I'm pretty damn sure my father has
Mhm.
this. I think my mother maybe even has another inheritable condition, but we haven't figured that one out yet. But my grandfather suffered from this, and I think his father suffered from this too because of
Okay.
their lifestyles, their pictures. My grandfather was quite disabled. I'm damn sure he had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. He had a strange life. So
And have you had your own children checked for this just in
yeah.
case when they were born?
Okay, so my son at 1, he started having the double jointed thumbs,
Okay.
and we're like, "Okay." So, we knew, but we had him tested when, he was about, I don't know, 15 or something. We all went down to Sick Kids in Toronto, and they did all
Okay.
sorts of testing on both for us.
Oh, okay. So far it's looking pretty good with the three children so far.
Yeah, my kids are actually far healthier than I am.
And
It's
can
just
this skip a generation? Like,
it
can it be like your
no,
kids don't have it, but maybe next generation that they have
no,
kids, they can get it?
it's a strange thing because when I was diagnosed, they thought it was sex linked,
Okay.
what's that? Hemophilia, right? That runs
Okay.
in royal families where it's passed through a woman, and then the two genes line up. But it's not actually that. It's a dominant gene, and you either get it or you don't. And if you
Okay.
get it, then you display some variability of symptoms. And each
Okay.
person they're finding has a random set of symptoms, and they come from all different sets, like neurologic and
Mhm.
vascular and muscular, skeletal, and each person plays out the symptoms in a different pattern and to a different intensity, and they vary individually.
Okay.
So it's really weird.
So what they're saying is that say you have three sons and one has it, but the other two don't show it,
They won't
he can
pass it.
he can still pass it on, but those other two
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, that's right. The
So if you don't
healthy
have it, you
one,
can't pass it.
yeah, the healthy ones won't pass it.
Okay.
Anyone who is afflicted then has
Mhm.
a 50-50 chance for every child they have
Yeah.
of passing it to that
Okay.
child. Yeah.
Yeah, I just curious because I know with some diseases it can be dormant in some people, but then one or two generations down, all of a sudden they come up with something that maybe, like you said, a grandfather had, but their
Yeah.
dad never had, or something because
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
didn't wasn't it was dormant with them. So that's good to know that if it turns out your sons don't have it, then um, they won't be passing it on, and hopefully that cuts the chain there a little bit. So
Well, I know one son is, and he desperately wants children. So I
yeah,
think that's fine because
sure.
I think there are both drawbacks and benefits because obviously our health, our physical health in my family has suffered, but I don't think honestly our mental, intellectual, or spiritual health has suffered. I think maybe we've benefited. So
Mhm.
when God opens a window, when He closes a door, so the- tit for tat, one or the other. It's just the luck of the draw. And
No, exactly. And how do they? When it comes to you say like it's a dormant gene that comes, it doesn't matter if it's coming from a woman or a male, like the mom or
no,
the dad, it just
no,
could be either one.
it's just a like a how DNA works, and sometimes there's a substitution, and if that substitution means something isn't, there's a link in the chain now, and things don't work properly. So
Okay.
somehow there's a link in the chain, and where collagen is produced, and it's a little off in us, and it
Mhm,
creates a more challenging physical life and a more enriched mental one. I guess
mhm.
is maybe the thing.
But as long as you get diagnosed with it and you take the proper steps, you can live a long, full life. even though
Yes,
you
it
had
does
it.
not shorten your life. They've actually said that exclusively, that except for the vascular case where there are life-threatening complications, and you need to be aware of that. The rest of them are management issues, and you can live just as long and healthy as other people, just managing your condition.
Okay, so going through again back to high school. Sorry, I keep going back, but I'm
That's
just trying
fine.
to. So you're in high school. You find out you have this. Now, does it limit what you can do for like when you're 15? When you're finding out, you're roughly, I want to guess what, grade 9, I guess 10,
Mhm. Yeah.
grade 10, something like that. I guess it kind of limits to then what you can do at school anymore. Like you can't do a lot of the activities anymore. You're tired, like you said. You're getting hurt. But you get through school, you graduate, and then you said you didn't go to school right away. I don't think, right? You got
No, I went to
married.
university.
Oh, you did go to university. Okay,
Yeah, and it was struggling. Like, I couldn't get up for class. It was hard making money in the summer because I didn't have all the time and the effort to put it all. Like, it was just too much load. I couldn't do it all, right?
hmm,
People struggle under load going to university normally, and to
yep,
pay for it and then be tired and struggling. And like, I don't know how people do it nowadays because there's so much pressure and things are more expensive.
exactly. And did you get kickback from like your teachers or your peers saying, "Oh, you just don't want you're saying that you have something, but you're just tired. You just sleep, staying up late, or you're just doing it." Like, did they believe that what you were going through, or did they think you were just faking it? Or
Well, most people of my most civil life have thought I'm faking it, but I've never went to teachers and said I can't.
yeah,
I just after the second year, I transferred U of T. I took psychology. I was in pre-med at Waterloo, and I was like, wow, this psychology is a really cool thing. And so I went to U of T to take psychology, and I was working part time and going to school part time and having all this physical struggle, and I was like, I can't do both. I have to choose one or the other. So it was me who made that. It was not I didn't everyone was like, "Well, you make what you want." And I wanted to make a lot. I wanted to be an obstetrician. I wanted to be head of obstetrics one day. And I knew that, we don't get to get everything we want. So I figured I'd make something close to it. And when I get there, I'll get there. And I just kept slugging along. Just never gave up.
no, good for you. So when you said you had to make a decision, it was you that made the decision. Does that mean you left university before getting the degree, or you just stopped working, or 'cause you said you couldn't do both?
Well, I dropped out basically after my second year
Okay,
to get married and to have children because I knew I couldn't focus on both, and I figured the school could wait.
so so you said, so you left, the university and you got married, had children. So your husband, did you meet him at university, or did you meet him back home when you're going to school, or where did you meet your husband?
Oh, so a good Martin Schumann, was one of my best friends in school, and he went to U of T and met my ex, Rob, and, invited me for a blind date down at U of T during the beginning of first year, and I went on a blind date and met my husband. Yeah.
Oh, a match made in heaven at the time because he gave you 3 beautiful children.
He did. We were so close. We were intimate like that. It was just
Yeah,
kismet. Yeah, we had a lovely life together.
and you guys were together for what, 10
18
years?
years.
18 years. Oh,
Yeah.
longer than I thought.
Yeah, 18 years. 18 years with my first husband. We're coming up on 18 years with my second husband now too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you're going through university, you drop out, you have your children, and then, you said you went back to college or
Yeah.
university after that. Now,
Yeah.
is this I guess was before you went 14 years in bed and stuff like that?
Yeah, so
All this
right
stuff.
before. Yeah,
Okay,
so yeah, we got divorced in 2006, and I went back to
okay.
school, and I managed sorta. I was struggling again with my health, but I was doing well at the top of the class, right? So
Mhm.
I did work placement, and it got worse, and then I had to take vaccines 'cause I was going to get a job at the hospital near me, and they required all these vaccinations. So I got some up to date vaccinations, and within hours. I was sick. I was desperately sick. I was like passing out and puking and shitting myself, excuse the language, in the toilet at school after they gave it to me.
Okay.
And my health wasn't great before. So I attributed it to whatever was going on with me and the stress of my life and just random sickness like everyone does. And
Yeah.
I never got better. So it just got worse and worse and worse. And I got another vaccine in the fall of 2009, and I was
Okay.
done. I was done. I was done. I couldn't get up anymore.
So somehow these vaccines that they were giving you even though they're basically healthy for everybody,
Yeah, for
on a
normal
normal
people.
basis because of your physical
Yeah, my immune
your,
system is pretty
EDS.
yeah, so it was just too much stress for what I was already undergoing. It
Yep.
was it it was too much.
Okay, so is that what caused the getting bedridden for 14 years, you think, was after
Yeah, oh,
was
I
the
know that
lows?
now. It took forever for me to make that link because, like, I hadn't been well before. So
Mhm.
stress and not well, and eh, they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder years before. I don't accept that diagnosis anymore because I know it's an adrenal problem, and I've solved
Okay,
the adrenal problem, and now I don't suffer from any kind of depression or any kind of bipolar disorder. So that's a misdiagnosis in my opinion. But
okay,
yeah, it's a complicated situation. You don't know what causes what at the time, and sometimes it takes you a long time to unfold all these things, but it was right within that time frame, and I'm very sure that there's a link, and
okay.
can't convince me otherwise. So,
No, exactly, but you did get your degree once you went back to school
yeah,
before.
diploma. So, yeah, college. I didn't go back
Yeah,
for university because
yeah,
like, that never panned out, but
but you did
yeah,
go
I
back
did
to
get it,
college.
and I'm certified, but I didn't get to use it because
Okay,
I got too
and what
sick.
was the degree for again? The certificate?
It was a dietitian assistant
Oh,
to work at a
dietitian is
hospital in
okay.
the doctor office as a dietitian assistant.
And then after the vaccines, that kind of put a backstop to everything of that, and then you started getting worse and worse to the point
Yeah.
where, like you said, you were bedridden for 14 years. So
Yeah.
when you say bedridden, you mean like you were literally in bed the whole time, or you could get up, but
I
you just couldn't leave
can
the
be,
house and
but every time you're up within 5 to 10 minutes, you're so exhausted from just standing that
Mhm.
you wanna go lay down again. So you
Okay.
do, right?
Yeah.
So if you go in the shower and you take a shower, by the time you're done your shower, you're like, "I'm done. I can't
Yeah.
I've got no energy left, and I need to go back to bed." And
Okay.
that's it. That's it. You're done. You got nothing left.
So
That's
basically, read all you could do is read and watch TV
I
and
couldn't read. I couldn't
okay.
listen to music. I could
Oh, really?
watch a movie, but I couldn't really tell you what the plot was. I could be entertained, but not learn anything. I don't brain
Was it a
fog.
concentration thing or
Yeah, yeah. So your brain is it's in pain. All you can do is deal with the pain. There is
Mhm.
no other existence. So music is it's noise. It's like this you can't deal with it because all you can do is focus on this pain and
Mm,
you sit there and it's a terrible existence but it's real and there is no room for anything else. You can't think. You don't have any relationships. I had no social life. I couldn't be online. I don't have a cell phone because all of that requires mental energy. And if you can't
mm.
even stand and take a shower, how could you then talk to people and listen to music and be alive? You can't. It's it's impossible.
Exactly. It's almost like when people have concussion, and I'm not comparing the 2, but when they have a concussion, they can't the room lights have to be dark. They have to like, this is severe concussions, of course, like hockey players and that they can't, watch TV. They can't, like you said, any ringing of a phone or something, it gives them the
Mhm.
headaches and they wanna go and throw up and things like that. So, it is the body works in mysterious ways, and I know I wouldn't wanna be a doctor because there's so much going on in there, and you get one little thing wrong, and it can re-diagnosed with this and that, and before you know it, you're getting everything wrong. So,
Do you know that people who have long COVID are they describe that?
yeah.
That there's so much they have to be in a dark room and they have to be quiet and it because it's all for them, the
No,
frequencies.
I agree with you, and I know some that still got lingering effects from that where they, still never got their taste and their smell back.
Yeah,
I had it back in,
really
like, 20 I think it was, like, Christmas of 2021, that Christmas break there, like, the 1st year, Christmas of 2020 into New Year's, and I got it, and I was down for 2 weeks. And I lost my taste of sense of smell and taste and that, but I got it back. But for about 6 months, I was having issues with my eyes where, there was just a pain, almost like, it's hard to explain, and I
yeah,
went
I
to my
get it.
doctor, they couldn't find anything, and they said that they had never heard of that, but I'd heard other people going through that, but I don't have it now, but I think it had something to do with that, but because it
That's
happened
because
right after, so
that's because COVID attacks the nervous system, so it would travel along the eye. It
yep.
would. Yeah.
So you're bedridden for 14 years. Are you still married to your first husband at this time?
Actually, just after our divorce is
Okay,
when
so just after
yeah.
when that happened. So and they got no social life, so it's just basically you and your kids. I don't know if your kids were living with you or him
Yeah,
or
so, after I got sick I stayed in Kitchener, was where I was living with my kids for a few years, and then eventually I figured, well, getting out of the city was probably in my best interest. So
Mhm.
um, my boys stayed with their dad in Kitchener, and I took my youngest, my daughter, to Goderich to be in the
Okay.
countryside. And she was raised her last few years in the countryside, away from it all. So,
Okay.
and I have my second husband. We
Mm.
moved there. That's where he's from. His family's
Okay.
from.
And then finally, all of a sudden, you get to the point where you're starting to come out of that. 14 years, you said you were there, but now you're starting to get energy back. You're able to get up. You're able to do things again. What was it like finally getting to go outside and do things again? No, take your time. I think even that just explains all right there. I mean, it was I'm if I'm not speaking for you, like just a relief that you're basically getting your life back.
It's very hard to verbalize because like it took me a year once I figured out that that adrenaline was causing a lot of my symptoms. So once I started blocking adrenaline to get off of the painkillers that I was on. I was
Mhm.
on a serious amount of hydromorphone, which
Okay.
people doesn't know is a pretty heavy narcotic.
Oh yeah. Another word for it is Dilaudid, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna ignore that phone. And it was a lot. And even weaning was stressful because when you finally get to the end of a narcotic, you go through withdrawal. Even if you're not like addicted, and I was never addicted, I was definitely dependent. I couldn't live without it. But when I wanted to stop, I couldn't stop. I'd get to the point where the symptoms would make, oh, I'm just going to take this tiny bit because I can't stand the
Yeah.
symptoms, right? That's what withdrawal is. And
Yeah.
I've been through that because I've taken antidepressants, and the withdrawal from antidepressants is far worse than that of narcotic, let me tell
Mhm.
you. I got something called brain zaps, which is like a problem with the way the neurochemicals work. And every time your eyes move, which by the way, all the friggin' time, you get electrical sensations in the brain. So that was war worse, far worse. But when I got off of the painkillers, I felt more alive and more like a child than I had
Mhm.
ever. I don't know how to explain. I was just talking to God and,
Yeah.
like, loving the clouds and feeling like everything was all worth it right in that very moment. So,
Yeah.
yes,
Because
being outside on the swing, feeling the breeze, being a part of life again was overwhelming.
oh, I
Yes.
can imagine. And I know, and I hear that from a lot of people too, because they almost feel like the last few times of being on that medication, when they got off, they found that a lot of the brain fog that they used to get, things like that, could have been brought on a lot from not just the illness, but the medications you're on too, because they do affect your brain and everything. It's an unnatural chemical in your body. So, um, getting that away, like you said, you feel alive. You're this. Now you're able to do things again. Is this shortly after this? Is this how you met your second husband, or?
No, no, he's been with me for the whole 14 years in bed, that
Oh,
man.
okay.
He's been taking care
So
of
you
my
met him just before this all happened then?
just before it all happened, fell in love with him, and he asked me to marry him, and then within 6 months, I was very sick. So he's
Okay.
been here this whole time.
And now when you're in bed that whole time, do you have doctors doing house calls, I guess? Because you can't get up to go to the hospital,
Well,
right?
I have a doctor in Kitchener, and I would do twice a year visit
Okay.
to Kitchener and visit her, and she would do telecalls for me, and she
Okay.
still does telecalls for me. I'm having trouble finding a doctor. I found one I really like, and I've been on a waiting list for, oh god, it's coming up on 8 years for that
Okay.
doctor. It's terrible.
Well,
Um,
it's hard in Canada, I know that, and even here
yeah.
in Ontario, because we had to our doctor retired on us 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and we
Oh,
finally
no.
got one. It's like a virtual one now where we call into a clinic here and the doctor's through there, but they don't live here. They're actually somewhere else in Ottawa or Toronto or something like that. And what they do is we tell them that we want to make an appointment with them. They make an appointment, then they call us and we do a virtual one with them and that. So, but it seems to be where I really like this doctor we have. I know we're not physically in front of them, but she's really good, and if she needs if I'm concerned about something or if she needs something, she books a test for it. We go in, we get the test done and stuff like that at one of the local ones or in the Ottawa hospital. So it does work, but there is a big doctor shortage. So hopefully, the one you have now is one you can keep for a while. And
Well, she and I have been together since the birth of my son when I was, like, 22. We've had a very, very hard relationship. She's like, "Nothing works on you the way it's supposed to, hon." Yeah.
you're like, tell me something I don't know. No, that's all. See, you're out there 14. Now what happens now? You're going, it's 14 years, you're finally outside, you're doing stuff. What's the first thing that comes to your mind of what you want to do now with your life?
Oh, I wanna run for office. I wanna be in the government. I kick some ass. I wanna get this country cleaned up. I wanna be useful. I wa I
Mhm.
I wanna make a difference. I wanna use my brain, my heart. I wanna do something instead of lay in bed and die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that 14 years when you finally started getting up, when was that roughly? That 14 years, 15 years? Was that like
So
2016,
the
2000?
fall of 2008 was when I got sick,
Okay.
and when my brain fog lifted was January of 2020.
Okay, so during the pandemic is when finally you were able to.
I was working my way out of a hole
Yeah.
while everyone was getting locked down. I
Okay,
was
so it's
going,
only been about 3 years then.
"Oh,
3, 4
yeah,"
years.
and I have only been able to stand for a year.
Wow.
Last year, I was having trouble standing up. I couldn't fully stand up without neurologic
Okay, I
problems,
didn't
and
realize it was that close to now. I thought it was, like, back in, like, 2015, 6,
no,
something like that, and it's so
it's
this is fairly
changed
recent
in a
then.
year. A lot has changed in a year. You won't believe what's changed in a year.
No, I'm very happy for it. That's awesome. So now you're talking now what else do you do though? Is it just you're looking at running for office? Now, can you do anything with your degree, your dietitian degree that you have
Well, I'm
now?
I'm not even interested at this point because you
Okay.
know what? Because they fired all the people who wouldn't take the vaccine.
Yeah, that's true.
I couldn't take it even if I had wanted to,
Mhm.
but there was a time when, I couldn't ride a if I wanted to, and not that I could get up and do it, but ride a plane or a train, there was a time when certain provinces were talking about whether I was gonna be allowed to go into a grocery store.
Okay.
And, I had a medical exemption, but that didn't mean anything. I'm not you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
ridiculous that you
Yeah.
tell me I can't go into a grocery store. So, I figure, why go work in a system that does that? Wouldn't wanna hire me because I don't have something that's necessary that in their mind that, and would probably take my license anyway. So, I figure, well, what better place to go than into the lion's den and actually make some noise, I guess.
Exactly. So what's your first step? Where do you want to start?
Well, I've been, working with the good people of the People's Party of Canada. I've been
Okay.
doing candidate training with some other very good candidates. I am impressed with some of these people. Wade Baker, by the way, I'm gonna mention him. He's got my backing. That man works he's from Perth, and I think he's gonna be the next representative for Perth Wellington,
Okay.
because he's got so much drive and he wants to make a difference and he holds people to account. He's
Mhm.
got he's got balls of steel, let's say it that way. But
Mhm.
yeah, and I've been meeting with them regularly. They want me to run. I'm
Okay.
thinking about it. Uh I'm
Now when
thinking
you say run, do you mean like municipal or like mayor type
federal,
thing or
federal
like
seat.
federal? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the Huron Bruce riding to take
Okay.
Ben Lob's seat. I know he's probably a shoe-in because he's a conservative and Polyev is the next in line.
Mhm.
So, but I think I can give him a run for this money because he's been in this seat for more than 15 years.
Mhm.
He hasn't done a lot. I've seen him do some, but I think I can challenge him and I'm hoping people want something different.
Mhm.
So,
And I've always like I'm not political in a way, like I'm not always talking politics and that, but I keep in touch with it. And the way I look at I don't care if you're which party you're from, as long as you're for people and wanting to have a better country, having a better city. I don't care if you're liberal, if you're conservative, if you're PPC, if you're NDP, I don't care. As long as you do your job for the people of your constituency and get their rights heard and called for, that's all I care. I have no political agendas in my own self. And I have no way of, I just don't like how people, they will take something and just throw it down your throat. Like theirs is the only way. To me, everybody has good points and bad points when it comes to their politics. Because what I might say, you might not agree with, and vice versa. But there might be stuff that we do agree on and say, hey, well, how can we make that better? That's the way politics should be. But of course, there's so many out there that are on their own agenda. But we're not going to go there since it's not a political show here.
well,
But
I normally would stay out of politics for exactly that reason because
Mhm.
your business is your business. My politics is my business. Like, who cares? But
Exactly.
we're not in that climate anymore
No,
because of what's going on. And I think good people actually need to start stepping up and
agreed.
actually say, "Well, I can do a better job. I know I can do a better job. If you
Mhm.
will trust me, I'll trust you." and we'll get some things done together. Because you're right, I don't like the politics of division, and I
Mhm.
don't really want to jump into a world where that takes place, and especially since my health is fragile, at the
Mhm.
least, I would say. And why would you want to take part in that? But
No.
this is my point. We collectively, the good people, need to say where we think the country needs to go.
Mhm.
And I'm willing to step up and do that. I have a job to lose. A lot of people won't step up right now because they're afraid to say anything and lose their position. And I don't have a position to lose. I've already lost everything. So what if I got to lose and I've got everything to gain? So like you're right. I don't want to be divisive. I don't have a problem with people. I have a problem with my government.
Mhm.
I want my government to do its job, and I wanna hold it to account, and I hope other people do too.
Exactly. Um, So I'm glad to see that you're doing what you want to do. That's I think what the whole premise of this whole thing was is that for somebody who had so many dreams and ambitions when you were younger that you had to give up on once you were diagnosed with this because you wanted to be a doctor or in the medical field and you didn't think you could do that anymore. You were still able to go through what you went through, and now you're on the other side saying, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm able to do it now, and I'm happy to see you up and walking again. I'm happy to see we're going to see each other in April when we go to our high school reunion because that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people. Do you have anything out there for people that maybe either have EDS or and they're just starting, like they never knew they had it and they're just figuring it out now, or anybody that knows of people like in their family that has it? Like anything you can give them, any tips, anything that can help them through this for somebody who's been through this.
Yeah, you need to do a lot of research. Doctors don't understand this. I'm, like, understanding at the forefront now some of the research. Because of our structures are so different, our brains and our bodies work very differently than your average person. So,
Mhm.
if you're not finding health, you need to find out what healthy is for you.
Mhm.
So you may have food allergies and not know it. You may have sensitivities to chemicals or toxicities that you may not know it. You need to start cleaning your life out and finding out where your health is and what makes you healthier or less healthy, and eliminating and adding depending on what works for you. Don't go by books or common knowledge, because for years I thought, well, I should make it work like everybody else, but apparently that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
So finding what works for you, and physicality and staying physically active, walking is a
Mhm.
huge part of that, because the function of most of this is the brain, the central nervous system, and how it connects to everything else. And without that, nothing else functions well. So
True.
think about your brain and your spinal column, your posture, and how your nervous system functions as your first thought. And then keep physically moving, active. Limit yourself to what is, like, for instance, coffee and alcohol are poisonous for me to be sick, so I avoid them at all costs, right? You have to learn to limit yourself where you have limitations, and then you'll find your medium. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. You're
Sure.
being challenged, but you're strong. You're stronger than your average person. You have
Yeah.
no idea that you've got reserves. And don't burn those reserves. Learn how to use them and manage them wisely. And you'll be far ahead of everybody else, even those who actually are the cards to be genetically healthy.
No, exactly. And then thinking on those wavelengths, like trying to stay active, trying to stay going. When you're in bed, basically bedridden for 14 months, what was it that was able to get you to get out of that? Because if you're bedridden, you're not moving, you're starting to seize everything up yourself. Now, how were you able to push yourself out of that?
Well, I had a few near death experiences that
Okay.
kicked my ass. I had a C. difficile infection that lasted almost a year, and it almost killed me. I had this is it's an odd one to talk about, but I had experimental fecal transplants where they
Okay.
take someone else's and they put it in you because you're
Okay.
near death. And all the other options, all the other medications were exhausted in me, and I was 30 days from death. I
Mhm.
was 60 pounds down, and they couldn't stop it. So I was going to die. So I had that. Someone saved my life. And I was like, well, I need to pay it forward
Mm.
here now. Right.
Exactly.
Um, a very good man who I should probably mention has been giving me counseling online for 7.5 years,
Okay.
motivating me to get up and do something about my situation,
Mhm.
to resolve it. And I don't know if you know who he is. It's Jordan Peterson.
Oh, okay, I know Jordan. I don't know him personally, but I know
No,
who
I
he is, yes.
haven't either. I've
Yeah.
never met the man. I hope to one day
Yeah.
because I have a great big hug for him.
He's got those podcasts out everywhere, and
Yeah,
you can
and so
just Google him, you'll find him.
yeah, he's a university professor in psych from Toronto who was
Mhm,
canceled for having his opinions,
mhm.
and he's gone on to be a motivator, public speaker, mentor to millions, I suspect at this
Oh,
point.
yeah.
I've been following him since about 3 to 6 weeks after his first speech in 2016, and he's been my besides my husband, my best friend.
Okay.
And I owe him a big part of my life, and he's been very special to me. He's been a God's gift.
Yeah.
That's that's it.
So is it the type of thing though where once all this stuff happened in that and you started thinking, "Okay, I've had my life saved so many times now." Is it just a matter of physically just forcing yourself to get up and do things to try and strengthen your body up? Or is it just a matter of like how physically were you able to then get yourself to where you can get up and start moving around again? Because is it a mental thing?
It's God.
Yeah.
Um, I I struggled with faith for a long time.
Hmm.
I found it in those 14 years laying down there because I never lost my faith. I never lost my faith in humanity, in myself, in the goodness of people. And one day I just said, okay, make me useful. If you will make me useful, if you will give me the strength to stand, I will do whatever you need me to do. And I've been getting better every day since I made that commitment.
Good for you. So so you take it, of course, in pieces. So you get up, maybe go to the bathroom or something like that, and you're like, okay, I made it over to the bathroom. So then the next time you're like, okay, and now I can make it to the living room, and you just keep pushing yourself and pushing. Is
Yeah,
that
and
how it goes? Or
yes, and whenever you get to a place where you can't find a solution, like your willpower runs up against a wall, you have
Mhm.
to use your brain to find another solution.
Okay.
Right? So for me, standing was like a challenge because like I went to my doctor. I thought I had cervical instability because my brain kept wobbling back and forth. Right? She'd take a static X-ray and find no instability. Well, maybe it's because take an X-ray when it's moving. Right? They
Mhm.
don't do that here in Canada for the X-ray exposure. But regardless, I came up against a wall. Like, how do I stand up when I have symptoms that put me back down? Right? You're at an impasse. So I've figured out I had like a eureka moment where the neurology became clear to me. Your brain can't stand under that load. You have to strengthen your back so it can hold the load of your head before you have the head hold the load. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my goodness, epiphany moment. I called my mom. She's like, you had an epiphany. I'm like, yeah. And I've had epiphany after epiphany after epiphany,
Yep.
helping me find a solution to every problem I face. I
Good
haven't
for
found a
you.
solution.
No, I'm glad you did because here you are with us today, and you look amazing. You're looking healthy, and I'm so happy for you. And I'm hoping that there's a lot of people out there watching or listening to this on Spotify or something that will take what you have to say and learn from it. Because, like I've always told people, no matter what you're going through in life, somebody else has been there or done that, and for you to come and share, because I know it's a very uncomfortable story to talk about sometimes and certain parts of it, but you're willing to open up to everybody here. And I really appreciate it. And you and I, over the last, 6 months, have become really good friends. And, and
We
I've been
sure
learning a
have.
lot more about this because I knew nothing about this kind of stuff. So you've opened up my eyes to it too. So I appreciate that. And I'm always looking at learning new things. My brain's like a sponge. So, like you said, when you were back in school, that you always were hanging out with all the smart kids and all the. That's why we and I probably never hung out together because I was probably not one of those little smart kids. So, I was the goofball behind the drum set. So,
Well, you can see behind me though, so as well. So
what's that? Sorry.
I think maybe you're a grade or even 2 behind me, so I think
Possibly, yes. I was, I graduated class of 90, so
yeah, 88
probably
and
about a year or 2.
89. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So about a year or 2, but we still saw each other in band class, but I don't
Yeah,
think we really knew each other. I just remember you, but I don't we never hung out or anything like
we
that, so
didn't, but we saw each other in band all the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad to see that you're doing awesome, and I can see that you're just gonna get better and better, and who knows, maybe everybody's gonna see you out there in the political field there and doing your thing and, trying to help everybody else be a better person, and do you have any websites? Do you have any books you're gonna come out with eventually, or
Oh,
you
I'm
have a
writing
book?
a damn book. I didn't even know I was writing a damn book, but apparently I'm writing a damn book. I have no idea when and if it's coming out. It may just be for me. I don't know.
No,
I'm
definitely.
writing something. I'll
Yeah.
let you know when and if it actually gets published. But
Yeah, and if you need a publisher in that, let me know because one of our guests, my very first episode, Katie Brown, she actually helps edit and publish
well,
books and stuff like
that's
that. So
great.
I'll get you linked up with her.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I just all I look, I have no phone because like, what do you need a phone when you lay in bed, right?
Hmm.
And I don't plan to get one, by the way, because I think they're pretty unhealthy. And I have a computer, and that's enough.
Hmm.
I have a Twitter account now. It's called Flightless Butterfly, and it's at alive and kick at a capital A alive and kick 8. So my flightless butterfly,
Yeah.
and I just tweet sort of political stuff, mainly just stuff we all need to know about what our government's doing,
Hmm.
and that's the only thing I've done so far. I intend to actually have a podcast at some point, and I was hoping you might advise me on some of this. I've got a name.
We'll do what we can to help you out.
Yeah, I got a name, and it'll be about like growing and learning, and not politics. I
Mhm.
don't want to do just politics.
No, exactly. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I want to share and grow and reach people and make
Yep.
community, but I think politics is a separate piece of me that
Exactly.
is maybe necessary for now because of the climate, but I don't
Yep.
think I'm political necessarily. And maybe if I can trust someone else around here to do a better job, then maybe I won't because I
No,
don't.
but still, you have your political side, and you could still do that. But there's a lot more to you, and if you want to bring that out, that's awesome. I mean, that's why with my show, we don't usually talk that much about politics. We don't talk about religion. We because everybody's got their own opinions and their own thing. That's not what this show is about. It's about learning from other people and what they've gone through in life and how we can make each other better. Like the whole theme of this show has always been to empower, motivate, and inspire. And I think you've done all three of those today. I think you're definitely very much showing people how to empower their own lives by taking control of their lives. You're definitely motivating, inspiring them from your story, from going from what you went through, and now look at you. You look amazing, and you're doing amazing, and you just I could see by the smile on your face, you're just looking forward to the next 50 years in life because I know you're going to outlive all of us. So I mean, I keep telling
Yeah.
everybody I'm going to live another 50 years at least. So I just went to the doctor and got a good checkup on my heart. My heart looks perfect. They said my
That's
doctor is
great.
actually a runner, the heart specialist I have in Ottawa, and I just went for checkups and that. They checked everything and they said, you know what, your heart looks better than mine, and I'm a runner. And I said, well, there, I'll take that.
You, you just won the lottery, babe.
Exactly. So
Well,
I'm looking forward to at least another 50 years. I'm going to see my great grandkids too. So um, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm glad you came on here. Before we leave, do you have any last words you'd like to say to anybody out there that might be going through something like this? There's any last words that you'd like to end the show with?
um, I guess one of the things I don't know who said it, Jordan Young, one of the famous people that I love, said that when you get to the bottom of things, what sustains you, what you find that, and that will sustain you the rest of your life. So it may be painful to get there. Clean out your life, the things you don't need, the things that are bothering you, the garbage that you carry. Clean up your room upstairs, right? You need to deal with your own baggage because for years I was on antidepressants and it didn't help because it suppresses the emotion, but the underlying root is still there. So you got to go through that. You got to deal with it, and just tell yourself you're stronger than that because you know what? When you get to the bottom of what actually you are strength and your faith, and just to hold that, you can do anything. 14 years laying in bed and get up. You can
Mhm.
do that. You can. You can.
Agreed. So I think that's a great way to end this show. And I hope everybody enjoyed this. Make sure you go subscribe, share this with everybody else, let them all see. And we hope to see you all on the next episode when we have another great guest coming on. But until then, just remember, if anybody asks, say the butler did it.